Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire Your Success podcast. My name is Michael Leonard, former corporate zombie turned lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm on a mission to inspire millions of people to stop settling for average and create the life that you deserve. Each week, I'll be bringing on world-class experts, entrepreneurs, and high achievers to give you the inspiration to take massive action. I'm confident these successful people will give you the spark to create an epic life and business. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Here's your episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspire Your Success podcast. And just as always, want to say thank you again for being here. I have a really fun interview today that I know you're going to very much enjoy. The guest is Brendan Burns, and Brendan is someone that I learned a ton from in our time together, and definitely want to continue working and learning from him just because he's done so much and traveled and really created a life that so few people ever will be able to do. But he gives you so much advice in this podcast that I think you're going to be able to take a lot from it and immediately apply it to your life. So for those of you who don't know, Brendan Burns is a coach. He is a blogger. He's a podcaster. He's got tons of different streams of income online. But it didn't start out like that. Originally, he was an investment hedge fund manager in New York City and living the corporate life, but eventually got burned out and in his mid-20s realized that this was not what he wanted for himself and his future. So he spent a lot of time and money investing in himself, figuring out what he wanted to do. And he really got clear, and he's created an unbelievable brand now with his website, his podcast, his Instagram following is over 100,000. And he has an unbelievable network of people and mentors. And now he is really teaching others how to create a similar lifestyle. And I really like Brendan just because he's very genuine, authentic. He provides so much value, and he really just wants to help people. So that's one of the things that I really enjoyed with our time together. Plus, you'll go more into learning about his routines, kind of what he does on the day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis as well. So that way he can create a life of really productive and successful habits, and really just how to travel, make money online, and a lot of other great tips. So encourage you to stick around through the whole thing because Brendan is dropping value throughout the entire thing, and just want to say thank you again to him for being on the show. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and I will see you soon. All right. And on today's show, like I already mentioned in the introduction, we have a very special guest, and I want to thank you again, Brendan, for being here.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So I know you have a lot of different projects right now. You're traveling all over the world. Really have an awesome life. I think a lot of people kind of get bogged down in that corporate side of things, and you get 8 to 14 days off a year, and you try and really be strategic with all of your vacations and everything. So can you talk to us about like what life was before this for you? Was this something that you had always wanted to do? So that way maybe you can help give some people some tips on like, hey, maybe I don't have that background yet, or I want to get to that life of making money online and traveling, but I don't know how to do it. Did you have the background, or like tell us a little bit about your past there?
Yeah, so I am from New York originally. I was born in New York City, grew up on Long Island, which is the suburbs of the city. And I wound up at Cornell University in upstate New York as an undergrad business major studying finance. And this was right before the 2008 crash. So I was really intrigued by the big salaries that were happening and that whole lifestyle. And my desire was to get a job working in investment banking or at a hedge fund or something of that nature. Ironically, the 2008 crash happened my senior year of college while I was applying for all these jobs. And as anything happens, whether it's in dating or careers, when someone tells you no, you want it more. And I got shot down by every bank, Goldman, Lee. I mean, half of the companies were going bankrupt and the other half just had hiring freezes, but I didn't care. No meant I want it more. So in that position where I wasn't there weren't any opportunities to really get Wall Street jobs, I said, let me go to grad school, wait out the economy. And I applied to Cornell Law School. I was accepted. And then I applied again to Cornell Business School. And I was accepted into their accelerated 3-year JD MBA program. So I'm in this program and I'm doing the law school classes. And I never wanted to be a lawyer, even though both my parents were lawyers. But I remember while I was in that program, being on vacation with my family in Florida, and in my left hand, I had this law school textbook, like a case book, And in my right hand, my friend had just told me about this book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek. And I had it on my iPad, and I was like, all right, I'll read a chapter of each. I can go back and forth.
And I can't imagine you stuck around with that other book too long.
No. Once I got into 4-Hour Workweek, which was like the first paragraph where Tim is talking about tango dancing in Argentina, sumo wrestling in Japan, traveling the world, making $800,000 a year, passive income with some online business, I was completely hooked and sold. But that just really planted a seed in the back of my mind, because I got back to Cornell Law, got a job at a law firm, wound up working in investment banking on Wall Street. And I had kind of forgotten about my passion. I forgot about my true calling to be an entrepreneur and to travel and create passive income. And I was working in finance. I was doing investment banking, and I was living with someone. I had a girlfriend, and we were about to get engaged. And my family was there. And I thought I actually had it all figured out. Now, obviously, I wasn't living my authentic self, but I was like, this is exactly what I'm meant here to do. And I have my life all figured out. I'm only 25 years old. This is perfect. And then I wake up the next morning, and I have an email from my job basically saying that I'm getting fired. I have a voicemail from my mom saying that my brother's in the hospital and we don't know if he's going to make it. He's fine now, but I was like, what? And I get out of bed, completely panicked, and my girlfriend is there throwing all my clothes into the hallway, screaming at me that the relationship's over.
All in one morning.
All good things come in threes, right, Michael?
Wow. Okay. So so at this point that things were good with your girlfriend, your job, it sounds like was fine. This kind of blindsided. And then obviously the brother, that's kind of, so all these things, three, I mean, none of them was like, oh, maybe one of these could happen. It was all three came in one more.
Complete shock. And I'm glad they did all happen at once, because I find that in my personal development journey and in this community, the people who are willing to be most vulnerable and do the best work, often it comes after the result of like the worst things happening. And had these things been a little bit more mild, I don't know if I would have been fully launched into this mode of I have to figure this stuff out and get help and take responsibility and take action. So it's actually, when I look back on all this, it's the best blessing of my life, because number one, I actually wound up getting back to that girlfriend. Number two, I got a better job. And number three, my brother was fine and is fine. But the journey of that process was very interesting, because people always ask me, well, which one did you fix first?
Yeah.
And I say my girlfriend, mainly because that was where I was living. And if you don't have a place to live, you can't figure out the other things.
In New York City.
In New York City, yeah. So I had to fix that. And in order to do that, I went to Barnes & Noble. And I was in the self-development section, which, by the way, I had never been in one of these sections ever in my life. And I thought people who needed therapy or needed coaching were weak and embarrassing and should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah.
Sounds like we're the same person there. I love it.
Yeah. So I get here, and then I realized that my girlfriend was telling me that she kept using this word abusive. And I was like, no, because I'm not hitting you, obviously. I'm not even cursing at you or yelling at you or raising my voice. So what are you talking about? But then I find this term called emotional abuse. And I go into the books, and all these books about emotional abuse, which essentially means moody, silent treatment, pulling away, being controlling, being manipulative. All the books were basically geared towards the woman, saying, hey, the guy will never change. He's the devil. He's a psycho. And the book is about how to leave the man who's being emotionally abusive. And then I found one book called The Emotionally Abusive Relationship by a woman named Beverly Engel, who's been on Oprah. She's written 25 books, super famous. And the book is like, in the intro, she's saying, look, this book is geared towards gender neutral, the person being abused and the person who is abusing. And it's all about how to either leave the relationship, if that's the right thing, or if you are the abuser, how to stop being abusive. So I open the first page, and there's the quiz, like, are you emotionally abusive? And obviously it's 20 questions. And it's like, if you score 6 or more of these, you're abusive. And I'm on like question 11, and I'm 11 for 11. And I'm like, okay, I need help. So one thing that I always encourage my students and clients to do is, if you resonate with someone's book or blog or anything like that, reach out to the author. And that's what I did. I reached out to Beverly, and there's a long, funny story about how she wanted me to mail her a check through her website, and months later, and I'd given up on the whole thing. But anyway, I got in touch with Beverly. She was my therapist for 5 years. We worked together one-on-one every week for 5 years. And we would talk on the weekends because my Wall Street job would only permit that. And she made a huge exception because she writes her books on the weekends, but she would talk to me because she really believed in my growth. And it was this really special connection we had. And she taught me everything about personal development and emotions and all these amazing things. And it was in that journey and in that process of really discovering who I am as a person that I not only heal my childhood wounds, learn how to step out of the abuse and become a loving partner, but I also was able to understand what makes me happy and fulfilled in life. And that started me on this path of listening to a lot of audiobooks on entrepreneurship, including Zero to One or Zero to N, Peter Thiel's amazing book, other personal development content, Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield. And what I kept seeing again and again was this theme of entrepreneurship. And I remembered Tim Ferriss when I got back into his podcast, The Tim Ferriss Show. And that catapulted me into this whole world of, okay, I want to start my own business in tandem with my personal development growth.
Fantastic. It sounds like we had a very similar background with that. So all this was going on. And so you started working on yourself, which is huge. I hope people really pull that away, is that if you're not good, you can't help your family, your friends, your relationships, your business. So it's all about focusing on you first, which I love that you did that and are continuing to do it. Because as you know, it's a constant growth. It's not like you fix it once and you're good forever. So when you're going through all this, what year is this that you're thinking like, okay, I'm really getting into this entrepreneurship. I really like all this, because that's exactly how I was. There's so many seeds in all these books of like, if someone's cutting your own paycheck, you're not really controlling your own destiny. So what time was this?
Yeah, so in 2014, so this whole personal dev journey started in 2013. And I spent that year working on myself emotionally. And then 2014 was when I listened to this, was the audio of Jack Canfield's Breakthrough to Success live event in Arizona. Yeah. And it was a 40 CD program. And I listened to the whole thing over the summer in June or July 2014. And that was what really said, okay, I want to start my own business. So I finished that by the end of the year, and it's 2015. And and I'm working at a hedge fund at this point, a small fund, $300 million in assets, 4 people. And I said, you know what, I could do this for sure. And I could run this from wherever. And if I found a cool business partner that was on the same wavelength as me, let's do this. So I spent 2015 sort of toying around with the idea of starting my own hedge fund. But for a variety of reasons, including where the market was and a lack of risk tolerance by some of my more senior hedge fund friends, I couldn't find a partner, and I didn't want to go at it alone. And I also sort of discovered that investing is something that I enjoy, but it's not my true calling in life. So in 2016, that's when I started my Instagram account, and my personal trainer said, hey, Brendan, you love to travel, you love the personal growth, you should be on social media and you can build a business starting on social. So in 2016, that's when I started my Instagram and started posting all these things and growing my audience. And that was when I went from like 5K, 10K, 20K. I'm now over 100,000 followers now. But it was that process that started about 2 years ago.
And where I was your personal trainer that gave you that inspiration.
Yeah. One of the most impactful people in my life. His name is Geppetto Blyden. And we worked out together for a while. He was my trainer formally. And then we started working out together as friends. And we had so many similar interests. And he was the one who kept telling me Instagram. And he kept telling me social media, telling me about Gary Vee and Casey Neistat and all these people. And I was so skeptical because I came from this very white shoe corporate background, and I thought this was like kind of a scam or not real. And then I found some lady's blog, and she was talking about how she was making like $100,000 a month. And I was like,
which blog was that?
It's like some personal finance woman.
And then sense of sense.
Yeah, I think it was her. And then there was like
one of the first blogs I ever followed. I'm like, you can make money online. That was literally all I needed.
Once I saw that, and then the other thing that really solidified this was seeing, Michelle Schroeder Gardner, or whatever her name is. And then the other thing I saw was my friend from who I'd actually gone to the same college as me. We interviewed him for our hedge fund. It wasn't the right fit, but we stayed friends. And he told me that he was working Credit Suisse, an investment bank in New York, making a couple $100K a year. And he was like, Brandon, I'm making more money doing some SEO thing. He was making like $500K with his business partner. And my ears perked up. And that was another example of, okay, like this could be real. Because at the end of the day, I was willing to trade in, my 300, 500K hedge fund salary for $100,000 if I could like be my own boss and travel full time and be happy, right? What's that worth?
Right.
And then it's really cool because then, as I've learned on my own journey, you can make way more than that because you're doing what you love and you're passionate about, and it's not work. It's what you enjoy doing, and you're getting paid for it. And that's the coolest part about what happened later in my journey with my business. But yeah, at that early stage, it was just like, okay, Geppetto was telling me about this, and I started the IG account. And it was also right at the crux of influencer marketing becoming a thing. And I was in New York City as an Instagram influencer the year that being an Instagram influencer term was coined, and I'm getting all these free meals and free travel. And that was really where what I used to build my Instagram course, Mastering Instagram, an online course that was one of the fastest selling courses on Teachable. And it's like one of the top Instagram courses in the country. And the whole foundation of that was me documenting my journey of 0 to 100K, getting paying customers. And the hook that everyone loved was getting free travel. Right. And I built this system right as influencer marketing was being invented on how to get free hotel stays and free meals all the time and all these things. And that was a really fun process, which ultimately I realized was not my passion either in life. But hey, to like travel for free and get free meals, I'm not going to turn that down.
That's fantastic. I love that. I want to give props to your personal trainer and now turned friend. That's for getting that inspiration. I mean, that is such a cool story. I looking back, if I could have like actually done the Instagram thing like I knew I should have a few years ago, so I hope people just realize if you see an idea like this or something pop up, take action. Like, don't just think about it. So that's so cool that you did that and have grown it. And obviously it's a hugely successful course. And you said something that I think is really interesting because I come from a similar background of you have to work hard, 9 to 5, not even really 9 to 5. My dad's an entrepreneur, but he's worked so hard, so many years, like really a grinded out type of guy. But like, I think there's like everyone I knew was in a 9 to 5. There's a stigma almost. And that skepticism that you're talking about is exactly what I had. I'm like, can you really make money? Like, is this a thing? And then it was literally the same income reports from Michelle and all these other people. And I was like, there's no way they're all just making this up. But it's like, I didn't know anyone that was doing it. So why do you think that is, that some people kind of just have that skepticism? Do you think it's society, programming, beliefs that like, hey, I have to go to 9 to 5, work till I'm 65 and, enjoy my weekends in between? Why do you think that is?
Well, it's because when you're in school, there aren't any class. I mean, maybe there are now, but when I was in college, there were no classes on how to become an Instagram influencer or how to live a laptop lifestyle or how to be a digital nomad or how to really even like enjoy what you do.
Right.
I went to Cornell University in upstate New York, and I was in their undergrad business school. And there's no, so the whole thing is a funnel for getting a job on Wall Street. Like, you get in there and from day one, they're grooming you on what to wear and how to network and what's the capital asset pricing model and how to do a discounted cash flow analysis. And so literally from day one of my 4 years at Cornell, all I'm doing is being groomed for an investment banking job at Bear Stearns or Lehman Brothers, which both went bankrupt like as I was graduating,
right.
Which wound up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, by the way. But I think the reason is there was at that point in society, and I think things have changed tremendously since then. I think there's a much different outlook and understanding of what's possible given the explosion of people like Gary Vee, Casey Neistat, Tim Ferriss, and so on. But I think 10 years ago when I was in college, there was not this awareness, or if there was this awareness, it was much smaller than where it is today.
Absolutely. No, that's great. So this is 2016 now. You're starting to grow the Instagram. You're creating the course. First off, like, tell me a little bit about the course. Was that easy for you to create? I think I try and tell people that I have a few courses out. I'm planning, a lot more in 2019. And people kind of give me that, oh, I'd love to do this. I have this idea. And I'm like, oh, have you started it? No, I've been sitting on it for 5 months. No, I've been sitting on it for a year. Like, what was creating that first course like for you? And do you think that's a way that people can generate some good online income if they have a skill that people want?
Yeah, absolutely. I made strong 6 figures this year with my Instagram course, and I stopped selling it in May because I repackaged everything into a bundle. I'm sort of doing like the Adobe Cloud model now, where I have all my programs in one bundle called Mastery Academy, which if you go to brendanhburns.com, you can see more on that. But that now has my Instagram course and my ClickFunnels course and my personal development course. And it's so much fun to do all that. But when I was creating my first course, Mastering Instagram, the fact that I was able to build it out and have success with it had nothing to do with online courses. It had to do with who I was as a person and my work ethic and my persistence. So, the same way that when I was at Cornell trying to get a job in investment banking or a hedge fund, and some people did it and some people didn't, is the same reason why some people create an online course and have success with it and other people don't. And it really has nothing to do with the fact that it's an online course. It has everything to do with the fact that here's this new project that's scary and daunting. And when you're making your first course, you kind of have no idea what's going on. And you just have to blindly trust the process and really believe in yourself and have the right mentality and the attitude and the work ethic and the persistence and the just knowing that you'll make it work. Or if you won't, you'll pivot and you'll find something else that will. And I think most people are afraid to just jump in and pull the plug or burn the boats or do whatever you need to do to just make it go live. And I got some great advice from my friend, the one I mentioned who was having a lot of success with SEO. And he told me, just shoot an email out to your email list, which is so funny. It was only like 2,000 people on my list at the time. And I was like, hey guys, who's interested in this free beta test for my Instagram course that I'm about to launch? I'm like 150 people emailed me the first day. And I turned to my friend. I was like, dude, if I give this course away to everyone for free, who's going to buy it? And he laughed and he said, Brendan, how many people are there in the world? 8 billion. How many people are there on Instagram? Well, on Facebook, 1.3 billion, Instagram, 800 million. He's like, you're going to be fine. Give it to the 100 people.
Okay.
And so what I did was I gave it to everyone and I put them all in a private Facebook group. And I said, I emailed them back. If you want to join the course for free, you have to join this private Facebook group. And so I now had their email. They were in a private Facebook group. And then I was going live in this Facebook group all the time. And everyone's like, where's the course? Because I hadn't really started making it yet. So it was like a Friday and everyone's like, where's the course? Where's the course? And I was like, it'll be ready Monday. And I canceled all my plans for the weekend. And you can make a course in 2 full days if you spend those full 2 full days recording. And also, more importantly, you have the knowledge in your brain of what's the course to be. Like, if you need to research it and so on, that's a different story. But like writing a book or creating an online course, if it's in your brain and you just need to pull it out, it can happen relatively quickly. And it happens even faster when you have 100 people that you promised the course to and they haven't gotten it yet. So it was really funny because this was, I would say, March of 2017 at this point, because 2016 I was still working at the hedge fund and I was just kind of building my Instagram on the side. It was like a side hustle. And just another funny story was I was going very slowly with my online business, and that was because I had the steady paycheck of working at the hedge fund. And so I was going very slowly and I was learning, but I wasn't executing. I was just continuing to educate. And it's something so important that I'm sure you've seen, Michael, is the difference between education and execution. 100%. And most people spend 80% of their time educating and 20 executing. And so I was in that, like, obviously flip it, right? And that's how you have success. And so anyone who's listening, who's mostly just reading blog posts and studying it versus doing, I would say just get out there and do. But what happened was, I was listening to someone's podcast because, again, in tandem with this entrepreneurial journey, I was very much on a personal development journey. And I was listening to a woman's podcast. I don't know if you know Lori or Chris Harder, but they're
huge fans. I actually saw them live at Thrive, an event earlier this year.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you know them. So before Chris had a podcast, Lori had one, which she still does. And I was listening to it a lot. And she said that she and Chris had just watched the I'm Not Your Guru, Tony Robbins documentary. And it's funny because if you hang out with me now, I mention Tony Robbins and a couple of my other mentors, like, every hour or so I talk about these people like crazy. But when I was first introduced to Tony's work, I thought the guy was a nut job. He's this like 7-foot guy screaming and spits flying out of his mouth. He's jumping on a trampoline. And I was like, this dude is not for me. And I couldn't and when I met Tony for the first time last year in New York, I told him, it was just, he's so much different than I think some of the negative media connotation that he gets. But also that is part of his whole process. And I just didn't see it in the right context. So when I watched I'm Not Your Guru, I was just totally blown away. And I was like, this is my shit. And I called in and I was like, when's the next live event? And I flew out to UPW, the Unleash the Power Within event in San Jose, California, by myself, November 2016. And right before I went, my friend asked me, he said, Brendan, when do you think you have your Instagram? I had a website at this point. I had an idea of what I was going to do. And my friend said, Brendan, when do you think you'll actually quit your day job and do this full time? and I said to him, I don't know, maybe like 2 more years. And I was really comfortable with the job and I was getting paid nicely and I was in no rush. And then I go to this Tony Robbins thing and I'm like jumping up and down like a psycho and I'm like crying half the time and like, oh my God, just craziness. And I get back and I walk into the office and I'm looking around. The first thing that happened was it was Monday morning and I get into the elevator where I work. The office was connected to Grand Central in the Gray Bar building. And I get to the office and I get in the elevator. And these weren't people working at our fund, but similar thing is like I get in the elevator and the guy looks at the woman and he says, oh yeah, how's it going? And she just goes, ugh, Monday. And like she wanted to throw up. And the other guy was like, yeah, I know, I can't wait for the weekend. And it was Monday morning at 9 a.m. These people are literally wishing their entire lives away. So then I get to the top of the elevator and I walk into my office and the CFO is there and he's like sweating and angry. And it was just such a mess. And our other employee had just overdosed and died 2 months ago because of stress. And he was like my best friend. And it was just like a disaster. But then I get into my office and I'm like blasting like the Tony Robbins, like Spotify playlist and like jumping up and down. Like I got this shit, like crush it. And all I could do was like work on my podcast, work on my business, work on my Instagram. And then that night, we had our Monday night meeting. It was like, we share stock investment ideas and so on and so forth. And I was like, all right, well, I need to like buy my time here so I don't get fired or whatever, which I didn't think was realistically an option anyway. But I was like, let me just crush this stock pitch so I can like lock in another 6 months or a year with this hedge fund so I don't have to quit and I can keep just doing my thing. So I get in there and I actually had a great stock pitch. And I was like, oh, I thought this went really well. And the meeting ended and I walked out and the founder of the hedge fund he said, he's like, hey, can I talk to you in my office? And that's never a good sign. Like he never said that to me. I come in, I close the door and he starts asking me, he's like, so, and this is like November 2016. And he's like, so Brendan, like, what are you spending your days doing? And he's like, what are you working on? And I was like, trying to bullshit it and be like, this and that, whatever. And because I didn't want to quit. I wasn't ready emotionally yet to leave. And we were talking and the guy was like super stressed out and like tough, difficult person at times, but deep down he was a good man. And finally got to the point where I just got back from this development event, Tony Robbins. And he just said to me, he's like, look, we're coming up on year end. Does it make sense for you to be at this fund next year? And, it was one of those things where I'd spent my whole life pretending to be someone that I wasn't. And I'd spent my whole life lying. Like, I'm not going to say I didn't used to lie. I lied through my teeth all the time. And not like these crazy, insane lies where I would like screw with people to steal money, but I was always lying about who I was. And I would say whatever I needed to do to get people's approval, to get the job, to get the girl. And it was just lie after lie after lie. And then guess what? I had created this world around me that was all a lie. The wrong job, the wrong girlfriend, the wrong everything, the wrong friends. Another thing we could talk about. And for the first time in my life, I just told the truth. I just said, no, this is not for me. Like, this is not my calling in life. There's something else that I need to be doing. And I just told him the truth about that. And it was really hard. And it's like the same advice that I give, because I do some relationship and couples counseling, that I give to someone when they're in the wrong relationship. Being alone, like having a partner can be really fulfilling and rewarding, but when it's the wrong person, walking away can be so hard. And it's the same thing with the job. But as you know, that making that painful decision to walk away from the wrong thing frees up the opportunity for the right thing. And if you never leave that unhealthy relationship, if you never leave that job, you're not going to get the healthy thing that you deserve that really fulfills you. So I said that all to him, and like it kind of landed on him, and he was really cool about it. And he's like, all right, Brendan, well, I'm glad we're on the same page about this. Whatever you want to do, you can keep your office for a couple months. If you want to interview at other hedge funds, I'll be your recommendation letter. If you want to travel, like you can come back. And he was super chill about it because I really helped him build this.
That went well then.
Yeah, no, it went well because I helped him build this hedge fund from like almost zero. Like it was just him and me for a while. So he did owe me, and I respect that he was really nice about this transition. But I turned to him and I was like, hey man, I'm not going to another hedge fund. And he laughed and he said, take me with you. Because he was really unhappy too in some ways.
So this is literally the day after UPW?
Yeah, the UPW was like Thursday to Sunday. And then this was like
I went to the LA one, and
Yeah.
2017. And so yeah, I know that like next day.
Oh, like, yeah, Tony calls it like the reintegration into the world, and like
It's not easy. I remember walking in and people were like, do you need a hug? And like, I was
yeah.
like, I can't wait. At that point, I had already known I was going to quit. So I was like, hey, yeah, to keep laughing. We'll see who's here in 2 months. I got my date already planned. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Oh
I
man.
mean,
So
so that was the
yeah.
end of 2016. And had you told him, like, were you just working on your business while you were also managing a couple $100 million? Like, how are you managing all your time so well? This is impressive.
Well, thankfully, the founder was very hands-on and mostly carrying the firm, and we had a CFO who was really good and another senior analyst who was really good. So to be fair, I was pretty checked out, and I wasn't doing a ton day to day with the hedge fund, and I was building my stuff like on the side, on the weekends, and late at night, and so on. I didn't feel comfortable telling him exactly what I was going to be doing because I wanted to make sure that I was definitely going forward with this before I kind of told the world about it. But I told him I was going to be traveling for a while and thinking about a different career path. And it's funny because he recently emailed me. He must have come across one of my posts and wrote me a long, warm message about how he learned more about life and everything in 3 hours reading my website than he thinks he taught me about investing in 3 years of working together, which is not true because he taught me so much. And having a skill set of investing and finances is really invaluable, either for me to always fall back on to monetize or to just what I do now, manage my own finances. But yeah, that was one of the defining moments in my life because when I walked out of that office and never came back, I was free and I was also scared and I was hungry, and it gave me the mission that I had to figure out how to make money. I had to make this work. I needed to pay rent. I didn't have my paycheck anymore. But it also gave me the freedom to live life and create a life on my terms. So it was one of the most amazing things I've ever done.
That is incredible. How good is that feeling when you walked out of the door? I still remember. I actually filmed a video of me doing it, so I could never forget. But how good wasn't that just like a burden just released?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I had been tidying up my desk and like throwing stuff out for months, and like even though it was a surprise, like I didn't think it was going to happen nearly as soon. The minute it happened, like my office was like almost empty anyway, and like I had my cash flow modeled out for like how long I could live off of this, and like so it was really an incredible feeling, and the shock like died down very quickly, and I just was able to get started in this new chapter of my life.
I love it. It's so funny. I wasn't nearly a hedge fund guy like you, but I did have the best Google Doc of finances and how long I could live and what I needed to do. So I totally understand that. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about it, like, do you recommend people like saving up a certain amount like you did? Or is it finding something and doing it on the side, doing the Gary V model? Or what do you think people can do to maybe have some ideas so that way they can maybe not everyone's ready to burn the boats. Like for me, I didn't have $1 coming in when I left. I just saved a lot. For you, it sounded like you had some saved up and you were already working on it. So what can people do that maybe aren't quite where we are ready to burn the boats yet?
Yeah, so I think you need two things. Like one, cash is oxygen. So I don't care how risk tolerant you are. If you quit your job with no money, and you can't live off of it, you have no money, you're going to have to declare bankruptcy or be homeless or go back and live with your family, which I definitely don't recommend. And there are certain circumstances where that could make sense, but generally I find when people move back in, it's a crutch and they haven't burned their boats and they don't have that incentive to like, I need to make rent, I need to do this. So cash is oxygen. So having a savings and a runway is always helpful. But like the timeline of that can be debated. But the other thing is, I mean, most people, there's a reason why 96% of businesses fail within the first year. So figuring out the model and ideally proving it. For example, when you look at a business, generally it's either a product-based business or a service-based business. And I find that service-based businesses are a lot more predictable, especially if you're taking a model that already exists. So for example, coaching or teaching workshops or events or things like of that nature are much easier. It's much easier, in my opinion, to start a coaching business than to try to invent like the next social media platform or an app or something that's like more of a unicorn. And I think some people, if you have no cash flow and you quit your job with no idea and like it's Monday morning and you take out a piece of paper and you're like, all right, what am I going to do with my life? Definitely don't advise that. Now, on the flip side would be what I had, which was I had 1 to 2 years in cash flow saved up. I had strategically moved into an apartment that was much less expensive. I was living in a really posh, fancy apartment in Chelsea, Manhattan, and it was about $4,000 a month. And so moving into a place that cost about half that was great for me to create more cash flow flexibility. So having a year or two of savings, plus having everything built out, the Instagram, like it was basically just, okay, now we need to just figure out how to really monetize this, which was through online courses and coaching and so on and so forth. So I tried to take things as far as I possibly could. But as you also heard from my story, you don't want to get too content and then never pull the trigger. So it's about finding that balance, having enough savings, taking things as far as you can, but also knowing that if you don't push yourself outside your comfort zone, if you don't quit, realistically, it may never happen. So maybe you do need to take that risk.
Love it, man. I am just so fired up listening to you right now. We have so much in common, but there's so much great stuff that people are going to take away from this. So this all is the end of 2016, early 2017. So we're heading into 2019 now. By the time this airs, it'll be just early 2019. So it sounds like you're killing it with the online business. You have courses, you're making an impact and income, a very good income. You're traveling. Like that is the life that I think so many people want. And I want to ask, I guess, like, what are some of the things that you're doing to continually grow yourself, your business? Do you have, certain routines, or is it, on the personal side? Is it hanging out with masterminds, mentors? Like, what are some of the things that you're doing to constantly keep going? Because it sounds like you're just on the up and up and not going anywhere else.
Yeah. So just quickly on the business, and then I want to shift to my personal routines. But on the business side, I've learned that all great things require other people. And for a long time, this was very much a solopreneur gig where I had my course, had my email list and whatever, and it was just all me. And I found that to go from 6-figure to 7-figure territory in my own business, it's been about building a team of great people. And also, like you said, masterminds and in-person networking events and teaching stuff and just basically surrounding yourself with other people and developing really good interpersonal relationships with great people. So that's the last thing I'll say about my business is just for me moving forward. For example, I'm teaching an event in Costa Rica in May, entrepreneurship and wellness event. Go to revampretreats.com. You can see more. Me and Amanda Huggins. It's going to be a blast. Nice. And that wouldn't happen if I didn't connect with Maya and Corey, who run Revamp Retreats. It wouldn't happen if I didn't connect with Amanda, who's an amazing yoga and anxiety coach and just an amazing person. So that has enabled me to go to the next level. But in terms of routines personally, I have a very strong morning routine that is about 2 hours long. And I really don't start my day until about 10 a.m. because of this process. So, and it's cool because it's a game. I have to do 6 out of 10 things every day, but it can be any 6. Love it. And I also change that list of 10 like every week or two. So it's flexible. But right now, if you look at my list, it's number 1 is like have an herbal tea on my couch while reading or listening to some kind of spiritual book. For example, Eckhart Tolle, who I'm a big fan of. 2 is to gym class, play basketball, or go for a run. Number 3 is write something in my gratitude jar. Number 4 is do 20 push-ups or pull-ups. Number 5 is listen to 2 pump-up songs and jump on my trampoline. Number 6, eat something green, a smoothie or salad. Number 7, meditate. 8, read my daily mantra. 9, another type of workout exercise I do. Or 10, just watch even like a funny clip or a motivational video on YouTube. So every morning, I'm not allowed to start my day until I do 6 out of those 10 things. And that for me, and that also doesn't include my mirror exercise, which I do every day, and doing some kind of journal or voice memo, which I have to do those 2, plus I pick 6 out of 10 of those other things. So it's a pretty big morning routine. I know it's not practical for people who are still in a 9-to-5 job to spend 2 hours like meditating and working out and doing that. But doing this has just completely changed everything for me. And now I don't drink coffee. I don't drink alcohol. Like I'm just like, that's my fulfillment mode. And, it truly deeply fulfills me and gets me started for my best day.
That is super powerful. I love the 6 out of 10. I think that's a great idea because morning routines were a game changer for me too. I mean, after going to Tony Robbins and Jack and all these guys and studying them, you just realize that these successful people have these habits in the morning. And I found it from burning out. Like I just burned out a year ago and I realized I had no structure like that. And, you're just giving energy away. I mean, most people wake up and swipe and, look at emails and just get running. Instead of like, you gotta put the energy in first. So that's fantastic that you have that kind of discipline, and really that you just get fulfillment out of it because you understand that is so key. So for someone that doesn't have a routine yet, like you're right, 2 hours isn't going to be practical for everyone. Although I would argue you could just get up earlier. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. So I'm a big fan of waking up early. But what are some of the ways that if someone is just one of those reactive people, they hit the snooze and then they wake up, rush, get some coffee, maybe go to the gym, but then just like go to work? Like, how would you recommend someone starting something like that instead of, giving them 2 hours worth of awesome stuff, but maybe they're just, they're not going to make it work yet?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one thing that I do is I turn my phone off before I go to bed every night, and I don't power it on until I'm done with my morning routine. And I also realize that's not practical because some people need to wake up to alarm clocks. So my clients that I work with, I have them buy either a second inexpensive phone or some kind of iPad that is not connected to the internet. And what we do is I have them turn their main mobile phone off and put it in another room, like in a desk drawer at like 10 p.m. or whenever they're about to go to bed. Then they come back into their bed area, and you can have this other phone or iPad like on your bed. I have it next to my bed. And what I do is that if you need an alarm clock, you can use that for the alarm. And then what I also do is that is like a whole suite of all my meditations and my audiobooks and my library. So what you can do is you can use that phone, which is not on the internet, to be your alarm clock plus have your meditation. So get the Calm app or Headspace, or, I have a meditation library, so you can always go to brendanhburns.com and I can hook you up with mine, and just whatever you find to be the best way to do this. And that's what's been helpful to me. So like my iPad, for example, like I said, I have the meditations. I have Audible, so you can download audiobooks and then not be on the internet and then be able to access them still. I also have like Goodreader, which has a lot of PDFs of some of my favorite personal development books, because as you know, when you wake up in the morning, that's when you're freshest. And so rather than waste your best energy and best attention on Instagram, Facebook, or work emails, use that attention investing in yourself and your own development.
Love that. How much has meditation changed your life? Is that something that you've done for a long time, or was that during, the day of threes, I'll call it? Was that around then that you started, or is that something you've done for a while?
Started probably in 2014 or 15. And I meditate at least once a day now. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever stop doing because it helps me in so many different ways. For example, it can help me get to sleep. It can help me wake up. It can help me get back to sleep if I wake up in the middle of the night. It can help me if I'm feeling stressed out. And I think if you look at people who are really successful in any area of life, there are generally three things that they all do. They drink enough water, they get enough sleep, and they meditate. If you do those three things every day, I guarantee you will live a happier, more fulfilled, more productive life. And I think one of the problems with, cheers. I think one of the problems with this whole personal development space is that people are looking for something that they don't know yet. Like they're looking for that ebook, that video, that tool that they think will be their savior. And the reality is most of this work is actually quite simple. And I don't disagree with people who want to invest in themselves. I have coaches, I go to events, because that gives you accountability and motivation and discipline and surrounding yourself with the right type of people. But in terms of actual execution, it's quite simple. And even meditation at its core is really about just letting go and breathing and noticing your thoughts in the moment. And you don't need like the perfect meditation or this secret tool, like that $1,000 ebook that's going to teach you how to make $1,000 a month, right? Like if you just put in the work and figure out what works for you, and you have discipline and you have authenticity in what you do, I find that to be the most powerful. And for me, it's been about just taking what I already know, but actually doing it.
Love it. Yeah, you've talked several times about that. It's just there's too much information out there sometimes, and people just want to keep looking for it. I've been guilty of it. I've spent probably way too much money on products and this and that, or going to another event or something. But I mean, I realize that there's a lot of value in I'm not just buying random stuff, but like so many people just keep thinking it's out there when it's already inside you. You just have to like take it and take action towards meditation, starting the business, whatever it is. You can't just consume. You have to create out there.
Exactly.
I love it. That's so cool. So do you have any short evening routine to set up your mornings then?
So the mirror exercise that I do which is also on my website, is something I do in the evening. So I do my mirror exercise at night. Uh, so one of my coaches, who's very spiritual, that I've been working with for a few years, I call him every evening and either leave him a voicemail or touch base with him. I'm also in a small group coaching. I run my own groups, but I'm also in a group receiving coaching. I have 2 coaches that I work with. I call one of my coaches every night. So I would say those are probably my biggest things. But the other big thing to be aware of is working less. And that has really helped me a lot, because I used to just kind of work always and not have boundaries around that. And by unplugging and disconnecting and finding hobbies and even TV shows to watch or activities to do, that's been really helpful. So I set a hard boundary on, like, I'm never going to be working after 8 p.m. And I generally don't work Fridays now. So I'm working 4-day work weeks, and
Nice.
for me and my team, which I love doing as well. And yeah, I'll meditate in the evenings as well. It's really just about figuring out what fulfills you and is the best way to relax and soothe, and then doing that. And when I tell people, especially because I coach a lot of coaches now, it's a funny niche that I've fallen into a little bit, because I've built a successful coaching business and people are interested in that and want their own. And so many of them are afraid to actually indulge in treating themselves well, because they feel like they need to do more and get that next client and build their business. But the reality is, a lot of times when you're a coach, clients are paying you to actually be happy. And if you're not happy, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not loving yourself, meeting your own needs, you're not qualified. It's actually unethical to be a coach, because you're not qualified to show them something that you don't already have in your life. So what I tell my coaching clients, or my clients who want to become coaches, is you fall in love with yourself, spoil yourself, treat yourself really, really well. And then you're, from that good place, teach other people how to be in a good place. And that's way better than trying to burn out with like an email list or going Facebook Live a million times a day.
Love it. That is amazing. I could talk to you all day here, man. I know we have a time limit here. So before I ask my last question, I know we've talked a lot of different resources you have out there. So what are some of the best places for people to find you?
Yeah, so my website is brendanhburns.com. My handle on Instagram is brendanhburns. I'm doing the event in Costa Rica, so you can find more at revampreatreats.com. But pretty much everything is there. My core focus is now doing live events. I also have a podcast called The Brendan Burns Show, which has been very exciting. And then I have my online program called Mastery Academy, which is a bundle of all my courses plus coaching every 2 weeks in a small group setting. And for those with deeper pockets, you can always hire me one-on-one, and you can find more information on that on my website.
Fantastic. I got a ton of value just from this 45 minutes together, so I know people will definitely want to learn more. So thanks for sharing that. So I guess for the last question, we've talked about so many things that people can do. We've talked about routines and loving yourself and getting into something that you're passionate about. What is something people, if they just heard this little clip right here, what is something that they can do right now to help kind of speed up success and really find what they're trying to do in life? Or if they already have that business, really accelerate it?
I think the biggest thing is to just continue to invest in yourself. We invest so much time in our business, in our friends, in our relationship, in our family. And at the end of the day, we forget that we're here. And part of why I love my mirror exercise so much is because it helps you connect with yourself.